So it looks like James Gunn's Superman by James Gunn is somehow the most contentious movie of the year, and now that the film's out and everyone with a YouTube channel seems to have reviewed it already, the big fight now is whether it's a success at the box office. And wow, it really has been interesting to watch people who normally have a pretty good grasp on this stuff suddenly lose their minds and forget everything they know because they either desperately want this movie to succeed or fail. Well, I don't care much either way, but I do think this is as good a time as any to make a video about how movies actually earn their money and why they need to make a lot more than you think just to turn a profit. Ready? Well, tough shit because we're starting right now. Okay, so imagine for a second that you are a movie studio and you've made a superhero movie with an official production budget of, I don't know, let's say 225 million. It's in the can and it's ready to go. Now you need to promote your film, which means you need an advertising budget over and above the production budget. The amount can vary quite a bit depending on the film, the time of year that it comes out, and how much faith the studio actually has in it. The general rule of thumb is about 50% of the production budget, but if the studio has a hunch this movie's going to be a winner, or they really want to make it a success because the future of their superhero cinematic universe depends on it, that budget could grow to be as big or even bigger than the production budget itself. In this case, that could mean another 225 million just for marketing and promotion. Now you're talking $450 million total spends.
Sheer fucking hubris.
Or, if they reckon they've got a bit of a stinker on their hands, then clearly spending a shit ton of money on advertising would mean throwing good money after bad. Instead, they'd probably release the film during one of the 4 dump months of the year, which I've already made a video about, scale the advertising budget back to like 25% or even less, and try to cut their losses. It's not pretty, but it is the harsh reality of Hollywood.
It's Hollywood, baby.
But for the sake of argument here, let's say that your movie is a middle-of-the-road kind of film. Not great, but not terrible either, which means a 50% marketing spend. That means the whole project, all in, has now cost you roughly $340 million. So all it has to do is cross 340 million and you're in the money, right?
Wrong.
See, getting the movie out to the public means you need exhibitors to show it on their cinema screens, and funnily enough, they don't tend to show movies out of the goodness of their hearts. They have to be compensated, and that means a percentage of the ticket sales has to go to them. This percentage can often be pretty high, and it only gets higher the longer your films run. For North America, the typical exhibitor fee on opening weekend, where the most money changes hands, is about 40%. That means only 60% of the ticket sales on opening weekend actually go to you, the studio. And that percentage gets even worse as time passes, because the longer a cinema keeps showing older movies with declining attendance, the more they're missing out on potential new ones. By the second weekend, your percentage is likely to drop to 50%, and by the end of the run, it could be as low as 40%. The situation is even worse for international markets, which take a higher percentage right off the bat, usually 50 or even 60%. But they are still pretty important because, well, they represent the whole rest of the world, so you can't exactly ignore them. And for most films, especially big budget ones like action movies or superhero flicks, the international gross usually makes up more than half of the film's total box office haul. Add all these different factors together, the higher percentage for domestic that gradually worsens throughout the film's run, and the lower percentage for international, and you arrive at a rough figure of 50%. 50% of the film's total box office takings will actually go back to you, the studio. So what does that mean in this case? Well, it means that your superhero movie that cost $225 million to make and another $115 million to advertise needs to make at least $680 million globally just to break even. And that's a conservative estimate. Studios tend to underreport their production budgets to save face and pretend like their films are turning a profit much sooner than they actually are. In the case of the big studios like Marvel and Warner, the real budget can be up to 25% higher than what actually gets revealed to the public. Likewise, imagine that you really need your new superhero movie to do well, so you pump way more money than usual into the marketing spend, say $200 million in this case. Feed that into our little formula and now your movie needs more than $800 million just to break even. That, my friends, is why most big budget movies these days never actually turn a profit in theatres, or ever for that matter. Why? Because the market's changed massively in recent years. 20 years ago, DVD and Blu-rays were more than just expensive coffee coasters and unwanted Christmas presents. They used to represent a pretty big secondary market, adding up to 50% to a film's box office total. That meant a lot of movies that failed to break even open in the cinema would eventually become profitable through home media sales. Studios knew this and planned their film releases accordingly. But that strategy doesn't work anymore because streaming basically killed the physical media market. The theatrical run is a film's one and only chance to make money for the studio, and as you can see from our little calculation here, that's not an easy thing to do these days. As I said earlier, I don't particularly care how Superman does at the box office. It could be a massive flop or it could go on to become the biggest movie of the year, but if anyone tries to convince you that a 600 million global run is a big win, well, you can just quietly smirk to yourself and walk away, secure in the knowledge that you know better. Anyway, that's all I've got for today. Go away now.